So Simon, you're going to make an introduction on the topic, and then you have very kind people who are going to ask you so many questions that you won't be able to stop today.
J'espère. Excellent. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. Je m'appelle Simon Ibbitson et je travaille avec Julius Baer. Et je ne parle pas français très bien. Mes excuses, je suis désolé. So this will be in English if that's okay. As was just introduced, Yann is not able to share the platform with me. I'm going to stand up, by the way, if that's okay. So this is a Q&A with one person about private equity. So I hope that you will ask me a couple of questions. And while you're thinking of a couple of questions to ask, I'll just give you a very brief CV of my history, ma histoire. So I started as a trader in London in 1985 with a business called Ackroyd & Smithers. I had 14 months on the floor. And then a bank called S.G. Warburg bought us. Some of you in the room will remember S.G. Warburg. And I was a trader until 2000. And then in 2000, I switched horses from the trading books. I was invited with the promise of a lot of foreign travel to become a private equity salesperson. And when I joined Julius Baer on the 1st of April last year, a colleague very kindly said that I was a pioneer of the industry. And I think actually I was. It was a strange thing that un roast beef would be the first product specialist in a Swiss bank, but there you go. And from 2000, for 21 years, that's what I've done, promoted private equity. And if I had to sum up how things have changed, not just in the world of private equity, but everything, really, I think, this century. A philosopher, I think he was a French one, summed up in one word last century with the word speed. I think what I would sum it up so far is accessibility. You know, who would have thought we would have been talking about Bitcoin 20 years ago? I didn't. So what's happened in our industry is that it's become so much more accessible. And if I can just tell you a little story and then hopefully I get a question. I don't know how many of you in the room have read the George Orwell book, Animal Farm. Very good, very good. Do you remember what the slogan was that Napoleon, the chief rabble-rouser, the pig, had when they were kicking the farmer out of the farmhouse? It was 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Remember that one? That is how I felt when I was trying to sell private equity in 2000. It was public good, private bad. And private was bad because you couldn't trade it. It was illiquid. It was longer term. It was opaque. We didn't know what was going on, etc., etc. Now I'm pleased to say that 21 years later, I don't hear that slogan as much. I still do, and it still annoys me because I think the private equity industry has proven that actually it can add a lot of value, not just to client portfolios, but to economies, to employment, to innovation, to wealth creation, etc. And so I've always viewed that the private assets should sit alongside public assets. It's not blanche ou noir, schwarz oder weiß. It's not a black or white choice, but they both are complementary to each other. And just to finish that little story, I don't know if you remember when they took over the farmhouse and the pigs started to walk on hind legs, they changed the slogan. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. So what I've tried to do is change the slogan as well in my industry, my own little way, at UBS, where I helped found the team, and at Credit Suisse, where I helped found the team, and now at JB, where I'm running the sales side, to improve the image of our business, to make it accessible. It's a very simple business, really, to talk about it, to simplify it for clients. And we, like other banks, other competitors, provide, I think, an excellent array of options for clients. And I'll just finish on this last note. All I ask clients to do is just come and have a look in our shop window. We put private equity in. I know my old team at CS put private equity in their window, and UBS do the same, and others, and Pictet, a very good business here in Geneva, have been running great private equity business for years. But the key is we all put something different in. We all put something different in. It's private equity, yes. So all I can say is, please, monsieur, come and have a look, and we can talk about it. If it catches your eye, then we can talk about our business a bit more. That's the intro. Thank you. I hope that was okay for you.
J'ai besoin du son pour le micro.
Good afternoon. I'm working in the same team as Simon, so I will ask the first question. Simon, what do you think, if you can elaborate a little bit on how to build a diversified private equity portfolio? Because a lot of clients are looking to invest only in co-investments. Do you think it is the smartest way to get exposure to private markets?
Merci, Ben. Thank you. You know, the interesting thing, and I hear co-investments a lot, if there wasn't a fund business, there would be no co-investments, by the way. Because co-investments are a product, invariably, of fund managers acquiring a company and not really being able to write the full equity check from the fund, so they offer their best clients co-investments. I think co-investments are great fun. You've got more immediate gratification, usually with a co-investment. It's one investment, it's easy to understand, you know what you're buying. But the issue, I think, with co-investments is that the supply is finite, it's sporadic. You've really got to know who is offering you the deal, their track record, their credibility, why are they bringing you into the deal? If you are seeing the deal today, how many other people have seen it before you? Can happen. I think co-investments, yes, it's admirable to have them, but I would always say, try and look at the fund business as well. The one thing I've always been very transparent with clients are the risks that one is taking on. And we all know that money's too hard earned to lose it. Howard Marks of Oak Tree always said, it's not the wins that make you successful, it's avoiding the losses. Yeah, I mean, that's the key in fund management, isn't it, really? And the thing I like about the fund business and the multi-manager business as well is that it is safe, actually. It's quite a safe way to invest clients' capital. So I would always advocate that you have probably at least half of your money in these sorts of portfolios, multi-manager portfolios. Spread the risk. And if you see a nice deal, then augment those positions with a co-investment or two, and also a specific feeder vehicle into a single manager. Climate tech, alternative protein sources, all of these things you can look at and you can build your portfolio. The best analogy I can give you is building the cave à vin. Now, I'm sure a few of you in this room have a cave à vin à votre maison, and you know that you don't buy all of the wine in the same year. And you probably don't buy it all from the same producer. It's a bit like that in our world. Our vintage years vary because of the economic climate. In the wine business, it's the physical climate. Determines what goes in the bottle and ultimately comes out. And we don't buy it all from the same chateau. They produce a style of wine. And we don't buy the same strategy. You wouldn't buy the same grape variety. You mix and match, and I think that's the way to do it. So spread it around. Spread it over the coming years. But you have to have two things, a bit of patience and a bit of foresight for both. Yeah.
Another question?
Hello.
Hello.
Just wanted to know how do you think you can help external asset managers like us to get more deeper education on private equity? Because obviously we are all quite very educated on the liquid side, but it's very interesting to hear from you how to build an asset allocation for a private equity portfolio, but it's not always in our know-how. So how we can improve that?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. Most of my job, certainly half of my job, is teaching. 20 years ago, 21 years ago, it was a very different thing. Nobody really knew private equity, etc. But I think that most of you in this room today have a good understanding of what it is and have probably invested, certainly on behalf of a client, if not personally. Education, I mean, I do that. Ben does that as part of our living, yeah? Because I think it's true in life. If you don't understand something, you become suspicious of it. If it's politics or religion or private equity. So what we try to do is try and deconstruct it. It's a fundamentally simple business. I'll let you into a secret. I come from the Viand business. Huh? I was working for 3.5 years in the meat business in the northeast of England. And if I can understand it, there's far smarter people with MBAs and qualifications in the room that can understand it far better than I can. But what I try and do is deconstruct it for people. So if you're asking to understand it, we can spend time. We do that. I just represent the team from a sales and marketing point of view. We have a team of 4 people in our business who are investment selection. And the team was started and run very admirably by a gentleman called Thomas Bischoff. Him and his team can talk to you about portfolio construction. We have a good custom mandate business. We do this as a matter of course for our clients. I even wrote a little book here. Advert. It's a private equity. It's the private markets handbook that I wrote it for colleagues and clients in order to give a better understanding of simplifying what is fundamentally a simple business. So yes, we are on hand to provide that sort of advice anytime, of course. Thank you.
One more question.
Good afternoon. One of the key questions many clients come up with is in relation to the difference between perceived gross IRR and actual IRR. And if you really cut down all the costs on committed capital versus actually applied capital, the overall return of your private equity investment, which has an extensive lockup of about 15 years on average, in theory, at least in practice, you can be lucky and have it back much faster. But the actual return, if you do the math to the comma or to the point, you actually come out with an IRR which is often much lower. How do you address that in your selection of private equity vehicles?
Very good question. First of all, I'll just pick you up. You know, the private equity world, 95% of the funds that are in our business are 10-year funds. And within that 10-year fund, there's an investment period which is a legally finite life where the manager will endeavor to invest the capital that's been committed. And that can vary for 3 to 6 years, usually. Managers are always incentivized to invest as soon as they can because they want to start growing the capital, because the way they make the money is through their carried interest. They've got to buy and sell stuff in order to book a profit, to take the carry. And so we always look at not the length of the life of a fund, but the activity within it. And actually, in my experience, you see a sort of average holding life in the buyout world of between 3 and 5 years. If you're in the venture capital business, I mean, if you were lucky enough to have backed Uber when it first started, it was a private business for 10 years. So it all depends really on the development of a business and the stage you're getting into it. If you're trading distressed debt or investing in distressed debt, you might hold something for 3 or 6 months. So it depends on the strategy. That can determine the holding periods within a fund. Now, gross and net. One of the things that I thought might happen after the financial crisis in 2008 is that private equity managers drop their prices and perhaps start to either cut the margin that they're charging or to just charge on the invested capital. That hasn't happened. In fact, if anything, prices have firmed up because the good guys in our industry are always oversubscribed. It's quite incredible. Now, the way I simplify the gross to net IRR is the following. You commit $100, you can work out how much a manager will take from you roughly over the investment period and over the life of the fund if you assume a 10-year period, etc., etc. You take that figure off, which could be 10 cents or 20 cents off the multiple. And if you get a 2 times money, you're coming down to about 1.8 net.
Nearly,
then
nearly finished, right?
Nearly finished. Oh my goodness. And then you divide that by the holding period. And we do see excellent net returns after fees in our business. It looks horrendous to start with, that you're paying a fee on money that hasn't yet been invested. But there's a good logic for that, and that's so the manager isn't forced to do the deal in order to start the fee clock. They can take their time, they can be patient. The arbitrage between the gross and net, the delta between the gross and net, can depend on the life of the fund, the multiple, how quickly the money went in, how quickly it comes out. It's always going to be there, but I'm pleased to say that in our business, the margins are still wide enough to justify the fees that the manager charges, and you still come out with very handsome net returns. We work with managers who regularly make 15, 20, 25% net annualized returns after all of their fees, carry and the management fees.
Thank you so much, Mr.
is taken.
Ibbitson.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
For the one-man show. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. One-man show, yes.
Welcome.